Good morning, everyone, especially our guest here at Wedgwood. Welcome home. There is in this place the possibility of healing, of repair, of making things right within ourselves, between us, and the wider world. We gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so.
Welcome this rainy, drizzly morning to Wedgwood. We are so thrilled that you are here. If you're listening now and you're with us, welcome. We're glad to have you. If you're listening later in the day or later in the week, we're thrilled that you chose to spend some time with Wedgwood in Charlotte. We have a group I want to give a special shout out to that messaged me this week from Chicago that have been listening and watching our service, and we weren't aware they were on, but welcome. We're glad you're here and know you're coming for a conference to Charlotte pretty soon. So we hope things go well for you here when you come to visit. We always want to remember that we are on the unceded land of the Catawba Nation. And our prelude this morning, Song Around the World. And that's part of what our service is about this morning. We must bring the world together. We shall overcome. And now Liz has a few announcements for us.
Thank you, Melba. All right, so next Sunday, April 28th at Wedgwood, we have an Earth Day message with former Charlotte Mayor Jennifer Roberts, who is also the director at Eco America. She's spoken at Wedgwood before, and she's always, so well received. She always has such a great message. I believe this one is going to be a recorded message.
Yes, she's recorded it just for Wedgwood.
Perfect. So you don't want to miss it. But if you can't join us live, you can watch the recording that will be available. And that will wrap up April. April has gone by so quickly. It's been such an eventful month. We really believe in service as action. Well, we will have had two live services this month. We had two Sundays where we really focused on the life of Wedgwood as well as the life of our larger community, because that really is who we are here at Wedgwood. So stay tuned next Sunday, and we'll give you our schedule for May. And speaking of our first Sunday in May, like I said, we spend time together. We don't always have services on Sundays. And so Sunday, May 5th, we have our annual homecoming. We do it every year. And this year it's going to be at La Autentica Mexican Restaurant in Plaza Midwood, Central Avenue. We do ask that if you are able to attend, that you please, or if you're planning to attend, to please RSVP so that we make sure to reserve enough tables. And you don't have to be a member of Wedgwood to attend. You can be a friend of Wedgwood. You can just be curious about Wedgwood, but all are welcome.
You're all invited.
Yes. And social justice is really a part of who we are. Even before it felt like the world was set on fire, Wedgwood has been at the forefront of social justice in our community for a long time, to the point where we've been vandalized on numerous occasions. And that is a point of pride for us. It's very much a part of the DNA of who we are. And so earlier this month, last week, really, God, that went by so quickly. We volunteered with current initiatives. For the laundry project, we've got our social justice film festival, and we've in a moment you'll see some community events that we'll share. But Melba, is there anything that you wanted to add to this?
Yes, just go to the community events next. And let me just say, we had our service interrupted when we were meeting in person one Sunday with protesters.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I said, that means we're doing something right if we're stirring people up. So we are a church with a history of social justice. April 21st, today, at Romare Bearden Park, there is a rally, 6 months of genocide and resistance, if you can attend that. April 23rd, that's this Wednesday at 10:30 in front of Bank of America uptown. There will be a gathering stop funding fossil fuels. It's the day before the shareholders of the Bank of America gather. So they're wanting to impress them. And April 28th, many of us have already signed up, the Liberation Seder with Jewish Forces for Peace. You do have to RSVP. That information is in our newsletter if you would like to attend that. Wedgwood Social Justice Book Club. We are moving right on through the 100 Years War on Palestine. We are finishing chapter 4 this week. It has been a phenomenal study. We've had I could consider a Middle Eastern scholar reading along with us and helping us to understand everything. And it's just been a wonderful study. You're welcome to join in and listen if you would like to. We're on through chapter 4.
Yeah, but you don't have to be reading the book if you want to sit and listen.
No,
and
sit and
participate.
listen. Liz,
Ooh,
I don't
yeah.
know what happened to this one, but
I'm not sure. It got funky. All right, well, so this is the slide that talks about our Social Justice Film Festival. We'll get it fixed for next week. I'm not quite sure what's happening, but it's all right. We'll roll with it. So we are planning the first ever Wedgwood Social Justice Film Festival. You know, we're working on the name, but that's kind of what we're calling it for right now. And we just feel really called to provide a platform to continue to tell stories about social justice. And this year we're focusing on Palestine in particular and what's going on there. And so we've got a wonderful committee of Wedgwoodians as well as community members who are all coming together. And our next meeting, I believe, is this coming Tuesday at, I think, 6 o'clock. So if you're interested in joining that, please reach out to Wedgwood. Please, you can send us an email or message us on social media, and we'll get you hooked up to that meeting. We'd love for you to participate. But it's going to be on Sunday, June 9th, at the Independent Picture House here in Charlotte. And membership, although, we are small, but we are mighty, but we're also going through a really exciting journey right now. We're in a state of transition, which is, filling us all with excitement and optimism. And if you are interested in being a part of that and having a voice and seat at the table, we would love for you to do that. But in order to do that, you do have to be a member in order to have a vote. That's just, a part of every, church's constitution is you got to be a member to have a vote and things. So if you are interested in doing that and you'd like to join Wedgwood, let us know. We don't require a class or to have like a bunch of forms. It's just a brief Google form collecting some information, and that's it. That's all you got to do to join. It's easy peasy.
and if you're a member of another church, you can also be a member of Wedgwood. We
Yeah.
welcome that because all of us here come from different backgrounds. Some atheists, Christians, Muslim, we've got all different backgrounds at Wedgwood. So please, if you're at another church and you would still like to be a part of Wedgwood, please become a member. We'd love to have you.
Yes, and you don't have to live in Charlotte because we meet on Zoom every Sunday. We do some local things in the community, but we have much of who we are is also online virtually. So if you don't live in the Charlotte area, but you still want to become involved, you can absolutely do that. And connect with us. There's so many different ways to do so. You can connect with us on Instagram. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, and we encourage folks to like and follow and join both. Because we have a Facebook page, and the more followers we get, that will allow us to do some advertising and things that we're not quite able to do yet because our Facebook page is relatively new, even though our Facebook group is actually pretty big. So if we can get everybody in the group to follow our Facebook page and like and follow us there, that'll be great too. We also have a website that we keep updated, as well as a weekly newsletter that goes out just about every Thursday. You can also email us or call us. There's lots of ways to get in touch. And for those of you who don't know, Wedgwood has 4 part-time staff. Melba is our ministerial coordinator. I am a community outreach coordinator. Ashanti is our music coordinator, and Ryan is our technology coordinator. And we are here to help. And we do ask that, we do so much in the community, and some of that costs money, like many things. And there are many different ways to support Wedgwood by either, volunteering. Another way to support us is, or spreading the word, but another way to support us is by donating. That's really crucial because, we are small, but we are mighty, and we're really trying to do great things. And those great things, can cost money. And so if you feel so moved to donate to Wedgwood, we would really, really appreciate it. So thank you.
And now Thomas Blanford will lead us in our extravagant welcome. He will read the one voice and we will read the all together.
We are all welcome here. Welcome to a church that works for peace, justice, equality, and the care of Mother Earth.
We are all welcome here.
An extravagant welcome to you because of your gender identification, sexual orientation, ethnicity, economic situation, physical and mental challenges, doubting or believing, being depressed or full of joy.
We are all welcome here.
We are a community of curious and creative spiritual seekers, striving to learn and embody the way of servant leadership.
We are all welcome here.
We focus on the plundered and the marginalized as we try to address the major issues of our day.
We are all welcome here.
One of the ways we seek to heal the world and ourselves is through sharing parts of our personal story.
We are all welcome here. Yes, indeed, we are all welcome here. Now we come to a time of celebrations and concerns. I do want to say, I believe tomorrow begins Passover, so happy Passover to those who celebrate. It is also Earth Day, and we will be celebrating Earth Day next Sunday. But please remember this week, as we celebrate Earth Day throughout Charlotte, we have a responsibility to take care of our earth. Also, we want to remember Ryan just lost a family member this past week. So we want to remember Ryan and his family as they go through this time of loss. And I heard on the news this morning that Israel has attacked Rafah, and in a house, 13 people were killed, 7 were children. So it goes. So we definitely want to remember that part of the world this morning and the lives of so many innocent people who are being lost. Are there other celebrations or concerns this morning?
I just want to send a shout out to Laura, because I know her family is still healing from the loss of their family member. So thinking of you, Laura. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I just want to say I was getting ready to share with everyone that we seem to be coming out of a real dark period with the family, and thank you all. There's a note of joy. My daughter and her family are all headed to Disney World this next Thursday for the Make-A-Wish Foundation for a granddaughter who has cystic fibrosis. They're going to spend a week in Disney just doing whatever they want. And so I hope they have a nice, I was going to say relaxing, but I've been to Disney. But thank you all for your prayers and your well wishes. I think they're climbing out.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Disney is not relaxing. Others, celebrations or concerns? Well, in the spirit of Wedgwood, we come from many different beliefs and many different backgrounds. We have a moment of silence. We want to remember the things that have been places and people that have just been named. If you believe in prayer, please, by all means, use this time for prayer, meditation, self-reflection, or just a moment of silence to shake off the dirt from last week and get ready to face a new week ahead. Whatever you choose to do with a few moments of silence. Amen. Our words of wisdom this week are a little bit different. We have words of wisdom that may come from Gandhi, they may come from the Bible, they may come from the Quran, they come from many different places. And this morning, our words of wisdom are coming from a 12-year-old young man, MC Abdul, who is the eldest of 5 children, born and raised in Gaza, was defined by looking after his siblings while trying to navigate life under Israeli occupation. By his 13th birthday, he had lived through 4 major bombardments on his home. He and his family got separated for a long time in Gaza, and just a few weeks ago, they were reunited in Cairo. 81 of his family members have been killed in the conflict. His focus is now firmly set on his musical dream, and he says, "I know now this is what I was born to do. I have a message. I'm on a mission." So let's listen to MC Abdul. Shouting at the wall, but nothing is ever changing. The voice of a 12-year-old. Powerful. Sometimes I had to take a minute just to let that soak in. And now we want to hear from Mitch. Mitch was born in Queens, New York. Basically a non-religious upbringing. Both of his parents were refugees. His father was born in Switzerland, his mother in Vienna, and moved to Czechoslovakia as a young girl. She and her mother were able to escape the Holocaust and eventually made it to the U.S. Her father died in a concentration camp. And now we welcome you, Mitch, to speak to us about the organization recently started here, Jewish Voices for Peace. And as I told you, there's been a lot of questions about Zionism. Thank you.
Good morning. It's an honor to be invited to speak with you. Wedgwood has an impressive commitment to social justice, and one component of that is your strong support for the Palestinian freedom, for the struggle for Palestinian freedom, and for an end to the system of apartheid in Israel. On a personal note, as Melba mentioned, I am a first-generation American. My parents were both refugees from Europe and came during the Holocaust. My maternal grandfather died in a concentration camp. I refuse to let my family's history and the collective history of the Jewish people be used as justification for the oppression of another people. Before talking about Jewish Voice for Peace, let me begin by making a few comments about Zionism. Zionism is a form of Jewish nationalism and is the primary ideology that was the basis for the colonization of Palestine and the eventual creation of the State of Israel. Modern Zionism originated in Europe and was a response to the virulent anti-Semitism that was pervasive. Theodor Herzl was the leader of the Zionist movement, and at the time, in the late 19th century, Palestine was under Ottoman rule. Early on, Zionism clearly and explicitly cited the appropriation of land and the expulsion of the indigenous population as a goal of the movement. A land without people for a people without land became the clarion call for the movement, one based not only on a wanton misrepresentation of reality, but also on a typical racist and colonial perspective. Herzl himself put it this way, quote, "We shall try to spirit the penniless population across the border. The process of expropriation and the removal of the poor must be carried out discreetly." At the end of World War I, Palestine came under British control. Herzl declared that the creation of a Jewish state would, quote, "form a part of a wall of defense for Europe and Asia, an outpost of civilization against barbarism." England gladly accepted the proposal and started the long process of dismantling the indigenous Palestinian society. Jewish immigration to Palestine was greatly increased, and in November 1917, the infamous Balfour Declaration was issued, stating that England supported the creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. This was done with total disregard for the rights of the Palestinian population. As Balfour himself said, quote, Zionism, be it right or wrong, good or bad, is rooted in age-long traditions, in present needs, and future hopes of far profounder import than the desires and prejudices of the 700,000 Arabs who now inhabit the ancient land. As David Ben-Gurion put it, quote, in the political field, we are the attackers, and the Arabs are those defending themselves. They are living in the country and own the land, the village. We live in the diaspora and want only to immigrate to Palestine and gain possession of the land from them. Zionism, a settler colonial movement with the indispensable support and aid of England and the United States, created the State of Israel in 1948, an apartheid nation which explicitly values the rights of Jews above all others and denies fundamental human and national rights to Palestinians. This resulted in the Nakba, during which 750,000 Palestinians were expelled. There were dozens of massacres of Palestinians in which at least 15,000 Palestinians were murdered, and over 500 Arab towns and villages were depopulated, many being either completely destroyed or resettled by Jews and given new Hebrew names. Here's another quote from David Ben-Gurion. Quote, why should the Arabs make peace? If I was an Arab leader, I would never make terms with Israel. This is natural. We have taken their country. Sure, God promised it to us, but what does that matter to them? Our God is not theirs. We come from Israel, it's true, but 2,000 years ago. And what is that to them? There has been anti-Semitism, the Nazis, Hitler, Auschwitz, but was that their fault? They see only one thing. We have come here and stolen their country. Why should they accept us? In 2018, Israel passed the nation-state law, which explicitly states that Jews have more rights than non-Jews and removed any doubts that Israel is an apartheid state. Since October 2023, Israel has been conducting a genocidal war in Gaza, which has killed over 33,000 Palestinians, including 14,000 children. Gaza has suffered the most intense urban bombing in the world since the Vietnam War, and over 85% of homes in Gaza have been severely damaged or destroyed. At the same time, the campaign to ethnically cleanse the West Bank has accelerated, and attacks on Palestinians have increased exponentially. Jewish Voice for Peace was founded in 1996 and is now the largest Jewish anti-Zionist organization in the United States and the world. Jewish Voice for Peace is guided by a vision of justice, equality, and freedom for all people. We unequivocally oppose Zionism because it is counter to those ideals. As Jews, we believe we have a critical role to play in the movement for Palestinian liberation. In coordination with our Palestinian partners, we strive to be a counterweight to Jewish Zionist support for Israeli apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and other violations of Palestinian human rights. JVP's core values are 1, accountability to Palestinian partners, which is a set of principles, commitments, and structures that serve as the foundation of our work. We build and maintain close relationships with local, national, and international Palestinian leadership of the movement for Palestinian freedom, justice, and equality, as well as with our partners in the U.S. movement for justice in Palestine. We are accountable to Palestinian organizations and coalitions that represent and are themselves accountable to Palestinian communities and who share our values of freedom, justice, and equality for all people. 2, commitment to Jewish communities. Our voices and actions are needed because the Zionist movement and the State of Israel purport to speak for and act on behalf of all Jews. 3, commitment to racial justice and collective liberation. We understand that racism shapes everything in the US, Israel, and beyond. Racism dictates who lives and dies, who has the resources they need to survive, who has the power to govern, who faces the most violence, who has the freedom to stay in or move from their homes, and whose stories are told and believed. As a diverse, multiracial, cross-class, intergenerational movement of Jews, we also understand that white supremacy, homophobia, transphobia, patriarchy, colonialism, militarism, and capitalism are intertwined at the roots, and that we can't fully address any of them without addressing all of them. Our commitment of Palestinian liberation is fundamentally a commitment to fight against racism and for a world where everyone lives with dignity, power, love, community, beauty, and justice. As we advocate for peace, justice, and equality for both Palestinians and Jews, we believe in education and advocacy and strive to break the false narrative that all Jews support Israel and Zionism, or that Israel speaks for all Jews. Nonviolent resistance. We emphasize nonviolent activism as a means of challenging injustices and promoting change, including organizing protests, demonstrations, and boycott campaigns targeting companies, institutions, and policies that contribute to the occupation of Palestinian territories or violate Palestinian rights. Solidarity building. We work to build alliances and solidarity with other social justice movements, including collaborating with groups advocating for racial justice, immigrant rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and other causes, recognizing the interconnectedness of struggles for justice and equality. Political advocacy. We engage in lobbying and advocacy efforts aimed at influencing U.S. policies towards Israel and Palestine and for an end to U.S. military aid to Israel. Community organizing. We see our mission specifically to organize and mobilize the Jewish community to oppose Zionism and support the struggle for Palestinian freedom. Support for the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. JVP supports the BDS movement, which calls for boycotts, divestments, and sanctions against Israel until it complies with international laws and respects Palestinian rights. This strategy aims to exert economic and political pressure on Israel to end the occupation, dismantle settlements, and recognize the Palestinian right of self-determination. Zionism and the creation of the State of Israel is a cruel and ironic event and a tragic example of an oppressed people refusing to recognize that their own actions are oppressing another people and that they have instead become the oppressors. I am proud of the long history of Jewish progressiveness and anti-Zionism, and proud to be part of a movement of Jews towards reclaiming the humanitarian and progressive values to which Jews have historically adhered. And I was going to end my presentation there. As Melba mentioned, let me just add a little update to what's happened in Gaza in the last couple of days. From The Guardian today, they state that the 6-month conflict has displaced more than 85% of the population and killed 34,000 Palestinians. The latest incident claimed the lives of 14 children and came in a pair of airstrikes in Rafah, which has been bombed almost daily by Israel. The first strike killed a man, his wife, and their 3-year-old child. The woman was pregnant and the doctors managed to save the baby. The Kuwaiti hospital where the bodies were brought to stated. The second strike killed 13 children and 2 women, all from the same family. An airstrike in Rafah the night before killed 9 people, including 6 children. Thank you.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Rafah is the area that Israel told people to go to be safe. And now they are attacking in that city after they were told to go there and they struggled to get there. We always have a time of discussion, so any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to share or ask Mitch, I'm sure he's happy to answer.
And as Melba mentioned, there is an action this afternoon at 4 at the Romeo Bearden Park. Unfortunately, it looks like the weather will be inclement, but hopefully some of you can join us there.
Yes.
Mitch, thank you for the courage that you've demonstrated and the commitment to freedom and justice. How are you received in the broader Jewish community in Charlotte?
I'm actually not, I live in Cabarrus County. We've been here for 40 years. I'm not that connected to the Jewish community in Charlotte, but unfortunately, the Jewish community in Charlotte is pretty conservative. And while there is a committed and vocal part of that community, which is anti-Zionist, it is a small percentage of the Jewish community. And so, of course, we're met with various degrees of disagreement and sometimes even hostility from other Jews who are very committed to Zionism.
Anyone else?
But I would say, I would add that I am very encouraged, not only in Charlotte. 6 years ago, Jewish Voice for Peace had a national convention in Chicago, and I and 1 or 2 other people from Charlotte were there, and we tried to establish a chapter of JVP, and we really didn't get any momentum. Unfortunately, it's the terrible situation in Gaza that has motivated more people, but we have gotten a lot more support. We have about 20 members, and throughout the country, and actually throughout the world, especially among young people, there is much more anti-Zionism within the Jewish community and a lot more activism and commitment to the struggle for Palestinian freedom.
We have a question in the chat, and it says, what are the lobbyists during the speak to President Biden about the support? Okay, she says, what are the lobbyists, I think, doing to speak to President Biden about the support?
Well, that has been a big issue that Biden has aided and perpetrated the genocide in Gaza. Israel would not exist without U.S. support, which has always been completely unquestioned. And the United States has always given Israel a blank check to do whatever they want. And there has been in the primaries, there was a big movement for people to vote non-committed instead of to vote for Biden. And in states with large Arab populations, particularly Michigan, that campaign was very successful, and there was a very large number of people who voted non-committed to try to put pressure on Biden to rein in some of the support, which there have been a few little token criticisms of Israel, a few small actions. The United States has sanctioned some of the more extreme perpetrators of violence in the West Bank. But while Biden does that and will pay lip service and talk about the indiscriminate bombing and that Israel has gone too far. On the other hand, we just passed another $14 billion aid package for Israel, and we continue to supply them with weapons, with 1,000 and 2,000 pound bombs that indiscriminately kill hundreds and thousands of civilians.
I find it such sick irony that we say ceasefire now, at the same time we're writing a check and sending bombs.
Right.
If we want ceasefire now, stop sending the money and the bombs. It doesn't match up. And I find it just sickening. I want to tell
Absolutely.
you one thing I do. I don't know if it does any good or not, but it makes me feel good. Every time I see on Facebook or I get on the phone, and you're getting them too, I know these texts, give money to the Democrats, give money to this person, give money to that person. I go into the chat and I type it on my phone, stop funding Israel. Every time. Now, whether anybody reads it or sees it, but I see other people doing the same thing, but it sure makes me feel good. So that's a little something maybe you can do, because even if the powers that be don't see it, other people see it when they look at that link. So it's a little thing I do that makes me feel good.
Well,
One
there's
of,
definitely
one of the
been
movies we had, we're viewing with regard to Palestine issues, talks about the number of states in the United States that have passed laws that makes it illegal to boycott companies because of their business dealings with Israel. Illegal.
Yes.
So that if you stand up and say, I'm not going to do business with you because you're participating in murder, you can be arrested and thrown in jail.
Or lose your job.
And North Carolina is one of those states.
It is.
And I would think that opposing such laws would be part of the mission of the Jewish. I'm not getting the letters right.
Jewish Voice for Peace.
Jewish Voice, JVP.
Yeah, and those laws are being challenged. I think they're highly unconstitutional.
Yes.
And I think it's also very ironic that these right-wing people who are so vociferously oppose and condemn any violence, any armed resistance to Israeli occupation and apartheid. Now, the most non-violent method to oppose it, the BDS movement, boycott, divestment, sanctions. Well, they try to make that illegal and illegitimate, and instead of supporting a non-violent movement to express our opposition to Israel.
Anyone else? All right, Ashanti will close us out with an hour of love, and then we'll have our closing words and the closing of the service with the symbol and the extinguishing of the candle.
Thank you, and thank you, Mitch, for your presentation and for all the work that you do. There's a lot going on in the world, and we've got to find different ways to try to keep that balance. And one of the ways is through this song. And I'd like for you to listen to the lyrics and find a way to meditate and keep your balance through these trying times.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ashanti.
Thank you.
And
Did
before
you see
we
the light
close,
going off and on, every now and then the light goes off and on, and I swear it's my mom or my ancestors here. Every now and then it just goes, when I sing, it goes off and on. I don't know. You saw it, right? You saw it?
let me just say we are thrilled to have had everyone here this morning, and we are here every Sunday morning. We come on at 10:30 with our coffee cups and conversations and what have you done this week? And oh my goodness, I can't about between 10:30 and 11 today, but it ended up with cats. So, so come and join us. And we are a spiritual community. We try to gear our service so that everyone's welcome, regardless of your background. And we want to focus on what it is we all have in common: love of neighbor, love of earth, all of those things. And we love sharing our different journeys and our different beliefs. And let me just tell you, coming up is a great service I think you might be interested in on Mother's Day. I think it's the first Sunday in May. We have a Christian minister from Atlanta who is Palestinian who will be speaking, and he is going to share what it was like to grow up in Gaza and the courage and the bravery of his mother. So that will be our Mother's Day message, which I think will be very, very moving and touching. So think about joining us on Mother's Day for that service. And in closing, a poem by Fadwa Tukan, who is a Palestinian woman. She attempts to shed light through these verses, a poem titled Enough for Me. And what she is saying is that to die in Palestine and come back as a flower in Palestine is more important and would be more welcomed than to give up the fight. Enough for me. Enough for me to die on her earth and be buried in her, to melt and vanish into her soil, then sprout forth as a flower played with by a child from my country. It's enough for me to remain in my country's embrace, to be in her close as a handful of dust, a sprig of grass, a flower. Ashanti, will you close us out, please?
Yes. We extinguish this flame, but we keep the light in our hearts with this message of love and justice, taking it outside of these walls into the world in which we live in, until we see each other again. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so. Now go in peace.